Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm really excited. Today I have my friend Mike McQuillan with me. Mike, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then you and I are going to have a nerdy conversation about storytelling.
I do look forward to it. And if you're watching this, and hopefully it's pretty obvious what I do, that's storytelling. It's amazing when I say storytelling. I think maybe I'm at the children's room in the public library. But if you are in business, you're in the business of promoting your business. And the best way to promote is through public speaking. And public speaking is nothing more than story time for grown-ups. Now, my life, my two passions professionally and personally have been the fitness world, fitness, exercise, sports, and also presenting, teaching, and speaking. That all falls into one category. So presenting and the fitness world, when I went into business for myself, they had to include those two things. Got certified as a world-class speaking coach. I've been a certified fitness trainer for over 20 years. Put the two together, enter the fit presenter. That's what I do. I'm the fit presenter, public speaking coach with a focus on the fitness industry. You don't need to work in fitness to work with me, but you do need to be motivated.
I love it. And we're going to specifically talk about the fitness industry today. I want to underline that what Mike teaches is not just for fitness, even though his acronym is FIT. So, Mike, first I have to ask you a really personal question. I
Sure.
saw in your blog that you wrote about Free Willy. What is the Free Willy syndrome?
Well, have you ever seen the movie Free Willy?
Yes, I have. I have
Well,
not seen the sequel.
Well, that makes one of us. I've never seen the movie, but I know how the movie ends. So all of the listeners of this podcast, I apologize, but it's been 30 years. Spoiler alert. Do you know what happens at the end of the movie Free Willy?
Willy gets freed.
They free Willy. Oh, the suspense. And if you didn't know it from the name of the movie, you know it from the trailer when they show Willie hopping over the thing and Michael Jackson's song is playing. What could they possibly do for a sequel? The fact that they had a sequel is about the saddest thing. But
Yep.
the point is Willie gets out and they free Willie. What's the point of telling the story? You already know the ending. So many times people tell stories as I finally won the big game. Like, well, gee, I never saw that. When it ends with you winning the big game, it's like, well, gee, I never saw that one coming. Or sometimes people get on stage, they think, I've got the audience hooked. I'm going to tell a story about my life being in danger. So, well, guess what? I think I know how this one's going to turn out, because guess who's telling the story?
Exactly. And I think that's, me personally, if I know the outcome, I'm not engaged in any of the details. It's like,
Right.
it's kind of like I freed the whale, the end. Thank you.
Yeah.
You just saved me 90 minutes or, Kevin Costner Dancing with Wolves. What was that? 3 hours of storytelling? He told a great story, but I knew the ending. He dances with wolves.
I have not seen that movie either. When it comes to, I've got my go-tos in the 90s. Now, Goodfellas, I didn't see that one ending the way it did. That's my favorite movie, and that's from the 90s.
Well, and that's the thing. We like the stories with unexpected endings. Is that a fair comment?
Yes, well, I have to go to David Henderson. He was a world champion of public speaking back in 2010. The best stories are you never saw it coming, but it couldn't have ended any other way.
I love that. Well, let's talk about storytelling the Mike way. So, first and foremost, I find it very appropriate that you teach people how to speak in public and your name is Mike. I feel like your little bits of wisdom are going to be mic drops.
Kaboom! Yes.
Public service announcement. A friend of mine is in the music business. He begged me to tell everybody every time I make a joke about mic drops that it harms the microphone, so please don't do it.
Yeah, well, that's the new harm. There used to be the swinging the cord
Yeah,
back when every microphone had a cord attached to it. Now they're cordless as the mic drop. But you see people swinging and swanging. And
yeah.
I was a musician back in the day. We used to have these concerts in the high school, and this one singer comes in real hot shot doing the whole dancing thing, thinking he's got the audience. All he did was piss off the sound guys because he ruined all their chords.
Ruined them, tangled them. Yes. And by the way, you do not want a pissed off sound guy. I'm just going to say
No,
that.
you don't. You
Ever.
think a heavy metal band has raw, angry energy toward that crowd. You haven't seen anything till you've seen a pissed off sound guy.
Public service announcement in a public service announcement. That is
You
just,
got it.
I love it. All right, let's talk about what you do because, and you and I were meant to have this conversation because I personally believe if you're in business and somehow you have to educate people, you need to be good at storytelling.
Yes.
So let's talk about the fitness industry in particular. How do you use public speaking to help fitness facilities?
In the fitness world, we have a sliding scale. I was just writing about this morning for my LinkedIn post. I'm so glad you asked that. In the fitness world, we have a sliding scale between the scientific side and the just how the body works and the human element of why people do this and why people get motivated. And so many people lead this industry because of their academic credentials like kinesiology and physiology, and no doubt they're important. But none of it matters if you don't have any clients. Your clients don't have that motivation. And some people think that they're just too good for that. I've had this said to me, oh, you can joke around with your clients and you can have fun with your clients, but your real job is program design. Anybody who tells you that, the reason they're saying it is because all they know is program design. I've seen people say in the gym, oh, you're not here to screw around. You're not here to have fun. You're absolutely there to have fun. People who talk like that, I've seen it. Those people go out of business. So storytelling is in line with the human element of what we do. When you present, so many people think they're getting ahead of their competition by presenting more science. Really, most of the clients you're dealing with, it's the human element of getting them motivated to do what they do. And they'll remember the story, they'll remember the lesson, they'll do what you want them to do. That's how you motivate people, is by telling stories, not by showcasing your knowledge. Every lesson has a story, and every story also has a call to action. That's how you present.
I love that. And I think of all things, the fitness industry needs that because, the TV, media tells us that fitness should be hard. It's that hard work, and nobody signs up for the workouts. They want the beach body. So how does storytelling help motivate? Because I feel like if you tell the right story when you bring your members in, they're going to get better results. Is that a fair comment?
Sure. Well, they want to see themselves in that person's shoes. I'm glad you mentioned that about the beach body, because if you tell people, well, here's my client who lost 50 pounds and my client looks great, all you're going to do is alienate that audience. What you want to do, and you can get a little bit of science, when you get into the gym, especially if you haven't been there before, you haven't gone into it deep enough to really get real results. The results you get are not the results that you expect. So when you tell a story, so-and-so lost 50 pounds, somebody's going to try and upstage and say, oh, yeah, well, somebody else lost 80 pounds. Yeah, well, somebody else added 2 inches to their bicep and took 3 inches off their waist. Those stories, I mean, they could be inspiring if they change people's lives,
Mm.
but the real stories they want to hear are the things you didn't expect would happen. Somebody slipped on the ice. I just told this story recently. Slipped on the ice and then she landed on her feet because of all the core training we did. She didn't slip and fall and hurt herself. Or a client who was able, this is one of my favorites, he was able to buy a sailboat. Why? Because in the showroom, apparently it's not laid out very easily to get around. And because of the mobility training, he told me this, because of the mobility training we did, I was able to buy a sailboat. Now, I can't advertise, come train with me and you too will be able to buy a sailboat. He was able to navigate and walk in and out of the boat because of the mobility training we did. That's the kind of story that, number one, it's a success story that people say, okay, I can be successful. It also shows the trainer's got a sense of humor, doesn't take himself too seriously. And it also tells people, okay, they are results driven. And I can celebrate somebody else's success without being jealous. It's wrapped up in a story. They can see themselves in the role of that client without feeling intimidated or jealous.
I love that. Now, as a facility, I suspect, I live in a neighborhood and, this is like 30 years long sort of tradition. The fitness facilities, they have that draw for, they put their little business card draw thing in every restaurant nearby. And then, you win a free consultation and, all we need is your phone number and, email address and then, they do this sort of tour of the facility, and then there's this high pressure sales, and, all we need is your firstborn child. Um, how effective is that versus telling a good story?
Okay, listen, I'm in South America now. I'm far, far away from any place I've ever done this. I've done the drawing for the complimentary session. Okay, the selection process is other than random, just so you know. There might be a couple of marks, a couple pieces of bubble gum stuck to the ones we might want to pick out. We're not always independently audited, so you know from the conversation, hey, you want a free session? Hey, you want a free tour? That is not going to work. You have conversations with people. Yeah, what do you do for a workout? You engage them before you you engage them before you even do that. There is a
And,
sliding scale. You're going to hear me talk about sliding scales a lot. And in this case is between problems and solutions. And when you're speaking to an audience, it's more problem heavy. But if it's one-on-one, it's going to be more of a balance between problems and solutions. And then after the sale, it's all solutions, very little on problems. So it's going to be different. You wouldn't bring somebody in for a tour of the place and just start telling stories. That's a little weird. Most of what I train people to do is to talk to a group, and then we repurpose that content for social media, networking meetings, podcasts. Some of what you're hearing right now might have been developed by a speaking coach.
for a
There's
pod, shocker.
Yeah, so there are different phases of communication. Most of what I do is geared toward audience. So first time somebody coming in, we could talk about selling as well. It should be a soft sell. Ask questions about their background in fitness and what they know, and then just lead them in. They already know they want to do this. And Jim, I see gyms are the most obnoxious salespeople, and it doesn't have to be that way.
And what I find, and this is just my observation. I'm an advocate for the platinum rule, which I heard about from a man named Tony Alessandra. The platinum rule is wherever possible, treat others the way they want to be treated. Um,
Yes.
the irony, Mike, is I've never heard anyone say, I love the hard sell, guilt me into buying something. Like nobody says it. Yet when we turn around and become salespeople, some manual somewhere tells us, you got to overcome objections. You got to, but here's my little observation. Somebody who's convinced against their will, high likelihood of canceling using that 10-day cooling off period clause, right?
Well, again, I could talk all about sales. It depends on what you're selling, because some people need to be pushed and said, listen, if you leave now, we're never going to do business. And my biggest fear is that somebody less, you're going to sign on with somebody less capable. I wouldn't do that as a trainer, because my thing as a trainer is I have no competition. Not that I'm so great, is that nobody else is going to build that relationship with you. Then I don't have to sell. It's more of a soft sell. I'll sell somebody hard on a free session. No, I'll lean. It costs you nothing. I'll lean in. Listen, come on in, get a workout. It'll be a great time. And through the sessions, like, okay, when we work together, you soft sell it. Okay, we work together for 3 months, you'll be able to do this. You pepper it in, and at the end of the session, I don't have to ask for the. It is on the personal training side now. I don't have to ask. It's like, okay, how do we get started? You don't have to sell anything. I'm going to sell them hard on the free thing. As far as gym memberships, the way they finagle with those fees is $200 a month. The sign up for now is $2 a month. It's like, come on. Yeah, I'm not into that. The personal training, it's a little more. You do have to overcome objections because you know what the objections are. And an objection is a buying signal. So they're doing you the service by saying, oh, I don't know, that's pretty expensive compared to something else. That's cool. And with my speech coaching is different because most people they talk to me, they had no idea they needed this. And that process is like, oh my, I had no idea that I needed somebody to teach me speaking. And that's a quick turnaround in a few minutes to go from, let me just tell you about what I do to, oh, wow, I need that for my business. Well, let's get started. That's a different process.
I love it. And by the way, my suspicion has long been that 100% of the people who enter win those draws. Maybe not everyone, but I'm going to guess more often than not. And I also have a suspicion that there's a hierarchy of the people at the club. They get to pick the cards based on whatever their bias is so they can, build rapport and things like that. But I personally would rather have somebody lean in and ask me questions than, I've been in those free sessions where it's like, I feel like you've taken my clothes and I'm not going to get them back until I sign up. It's like,
well, listen, and that's why I do what I do for the fitness industry, because you've got these box gyms, these corporate gyms, and these corporate salespeople who come from outside the industry. They were probably selling cars, they were probably selling textiles, and now they're in the fitness space saying, this is how you sell. And it's really demeaning and degrading. I don't really care for a lot of gyms for that reason. The other polar extreme is they don't sell you at all. Here are our prices, thank you very much. But there's got to be a process that really, you said it, asking questions. Now we're talking more about selling than speaking, but it's on the same wavelength of communication. Communication is asking questions, listening to their answers, incorporating their answers into the next question you ask. And eventually they say, okay, how do I get started? They sell you, you do it right, they sell you.
and by the way, I love salespeople who are obviously following a script because I try my very best to throw them off their script because I know they're not listening to me,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah, it's brutal.
I feel it's my job to encourage them to find a job they're more suited to. But let's get to the storytelling part.
Yeah, let's do that.
So let's start with as a gym or as a fitness person, what kind of speaking am I looking to do if we're not, trying to create a commercial or something? What is storytelling 101? Why would somebody even go down this path and say, Mike, I need to work with you?
The reason why is because your gym floor is $1 million speaking venue. Over the life of your business, you can generate $1 million in revenue by bringing in an audience and speaking to them on the gym floor. That could be workshops for people who already belong to the gym. And what that does for them is it's good for retention. It's also better for results to teach them more, but it's also good to get people off those $10,000 treadmills that require intense maintenance and a lot of electricity and get them onto the gym floor where they get better results and it costs the gym less money. That's one population, is your existing clients. To make them happy, it retains them. This is how you upgrade them to upgraded membership, selling them personal training. Maybe they buy more t-shirts at the pro shop if you're that kind of a gym, more revenue from the existing clients, and then they bring in referrals. That's one of 4 populations you're going to address as a fitness professional. The next one is the people who don't belong to your gym. The 80 to 85% of the population that gets no exercise at all. They're driving past your gym right now and they are desperate for an excuse to stop by. They're not just going to pull over one day and say, let's give it a try. I say this all the time. Walking into a gym for the first time, Neil Armstrong was less awkward walking on the moon for the first time than most people walking into the gym. But if you do a workshop and you do it right, something lifestyle related, where they know that it's to their benefit and it's not just a sales thing, you're not selling Amway products, you're not selling cleaning products, and that is a true story. When we invited people into our gym to sell them cleaning products, I was the new guy. I had nothing to do with it. I had to be the clicker for the slideshow. And I was clicking for 45 minutes. I said, somebody needs to do something about that. Enter the fit presenter. Those two alone will magnify the size of your business.
That's literally the origin story of Mike, the fitness presenter. I love it because that's the thing. If your message doesn't make sense to your audience, it's a big go from, Mike's trying to sell me cleaning products to, oh, I should go. Like, seriously, who worked?
Yeah, so that's what I do, is I help you put together workshops in your gym facility that address the needs of your audience. And what you want to do is, like, in the world of teaching language, because I'm also a foreign language teacher here in Peru, we call it I+1. You give them something they can do immediately to their benefit. Then you give them another task that's just a little bit out of their reach, where they need your help. So once you have proof positive that something works, then they know I can come back to you for the next step. This way, you're not putting the hard sell, but you do offer a promotion. Sign up today, you get a free keychain and a parking spot, or something. And again, if you do it right, it doesn't sound like an infomercial, because you're offering something of value. And now they become accustomed to coming into your gym. They bring friends. Oh, I want to do this. I don't want to go alone. Please come with me. Now you just doubled your audience. You do these monthly, quarterly, however you want. I've got actual ready-made templates for people. Everything from fitness for the healthy holiday fitness tips. I'm trying to get them wrong. Your New Year's resolutions done right. Spring fever fitness. My favorite is Fight the Freshman 15. For ugly Americans like me who use pounds, college student goes off to college, typically gains or loses 15 pounds because of the change in lifestyle. And okay, so we have a Fight the Freshman 15 workshop for college students coming back, but the real audience is the parents of those college students. And you have to do this. I'll go with you. You sign up the parents. That's what it is. These are ready-made templates to bring people into your gym.
Yep. And one of my little pet peeves is the buddy pass, and that's one of the spoilers of, sign up today and we'll give you 10 free buddy passes. Well, you're literally telling me, by the way, you're showing me you're going to hard sell my friends. And if you give me 10 buddy passes, I know I'm going to have 10 less friends. Because number one, I'm calling them out saying you're not fit, you need to work out. But number two, I'm saying you're dumb enough to fall for a sales pitch, come in. But I've seen workshops where people happily bring, I had one actually, and, my little favorite thing is bringing in guest speakers as well, good guest speakers that are relevant. I once saw a guest speaker bring 50 new people to a gym.
All right, well, there's a double-edged sword there. First off, it sounds like you've had some bad experiences with hard sells and salespeople. I hope that doesn't drive you away from a potential to hit the gym, because gym culture is what it is, but it still could be a beautiful thing if it's done right. So I'm sorry that if people have leaned on you that much, that's been that bad in my world. As for the guest speaker, I want to talk about that. Number one, yes. If that guest speaker is bringing people, that's wonderful. but it drives me nuts. It drives me kooky bonkers every time I hear a gym owner say, yeah, we do workshops in my gym. We bring in guest speakers. We bring in doctors. We bring in chiropractors. We bring in dentists. Anybody. Said, no, the trainers are your speakers. I had this conversation with somebody last week. She said, I have a fitness studio. I've got 7 trainers working for me. I said, one of those trainers is a rock star presenter, because they're all getting tired of training the same people the same way. My push-ups are no better than your push-ups. Your traveling lunges are going to look just like mine. You want to stand out. You want some kind of a niche. And somebody on a staff of 7 trainers, somebody in that staff is a rock star presenter if they have the right training. That gives that trainer an opportunity to stand out without upstaging everybody else. So there's no jealousy there. It's good for your business, and it's also good for this industry to show the clients that we are educated professionals. That's the real motivation behind what I do, is because no matter how many miracles we make, no matter how many lives we save, there's still that reputation that fitness people are somehow second-tier professionals. And that reputation stops when we as fitness industry professionals take our position in front of that audience and stand and deliver something of value. They won't look at you the same way again.
And honestly, I'm thinking out loud that you elevate your staff. Number one, they're going to stay with you longer because they're not clicking slides on some horrible presentation.
Yeah.
But also, it elevates the staff in the eyes of your clients. They're going to respect them more, because
Yes.
and by the way, there's a big difference in my world between a personal trainer and the minimum wage schmuck who sold me my membership and happens to teach people how to use the treadmill.
Well, let me tell you something. In a lot of gyms, the salespeople are paid more.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
drives me nuts. It's prostitution, nothing more. It's one thing if you hire somebody to sell your cars for you, but somebody selling your services, booking your calendar for you, and getting a bigger piece of the training fee, it makes me sick. And that is the franchise model that's being used, because these corporate people who used to work in shipping or trucking or some other industry, they come to fitness and say, okay, the salespeople need to make all the money. It drives me nuts. You say minimum wage, don't even think they're getting a commission on everything. And because sales is so prestigious and trainers are so low and get such little respect, that's exactly what happens. And that has to stop. And that stops when trainers stand in front of that audience and deliver. And you don't do it by telling people what you know. You don't talk about how to decelerate the talus over the calcaneus in 3 planes. You do it by telling stories that people say, oh, that. In fact, all this week on my LinkedIn, I talk about that. Every week is a different theme on LinkedIn. And this week is all about how public speaking instantly raised my reputation in the workforce. In fact, tomorrow is all about my experience as a high school wrestling coach. 2 minutes of speaking, and they all say, oh, wow.
Yeah.
He's not just some locker room jock. That this is a well-spoken professional. That is the force behind doing what I do. I want us to get the respect we deserve.
I love that. And if I can just generalize, I can't think of an industry, because I'm sorry to say that the fitness industry isn't unique. Most industries pay the person who brings in the client more than the person who keeps the client.
Yeah.
And if you're in that position, I don't care if you're an accountant, a candlestick maker, a fitness person, you want to be seen as the expert, not the commodity that I can fire you tomorrow and have 3 more people fighting for your job.
Well, again, I have worked in too many industries in my life. That's why I have to go into business for myself. It's just, that's another story. We can talk all about me some other day. Now, in an accounting firm, a partner will go out and get the clients, and then the accountants will service service that client. It's a different model. You're selling the service that you create, and people are doing the background work. That's okay. If I had, let's say I had a gym, or I'm an elite sports trainer. I've been talking to more people who work with professional athletes lately. It's really cool. I sell you the McQuillan system, and then, okay, Jeff, you're going to do the calisthenics, and somebody else is going to do the nutrition, and somebody else. That's fine. If you created a system and you hire people to administer it for you,
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. If you create it, you sell it, you subcontract, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm talking about people who just get paid to sell your services. That's it.
Yeah. I love it. Now, I just want to point out that Mike is not just for fitness. He is for fitness, and pretty much I can't think of
Yes.
my little rant is I believe every business should have at least one person that can do the presentations. And if you cringe in terror and you're thinking, oh, I can't be on stage,
Yeah.
probably not your spot to fill. But if you can find one, and like Mike said, if you've got a team of 8 people, odds are good somebody on that team would rather do that than something else.
Yes. Absolutely. I can go down the line. In fact, today's presentation is all about that. Yeah, I mean, today's thing on LinkedIn, you have to go check it out. But I see it all the time when people try and talk about, they just want to showcase their knowledge. And that's easy. I could tell you, I could recite any chapter from a textbook. I can do it all day. I got into this because I was teaching. I went from personal training to teaching the certification course. And that's when I fell in love with teaching. Never fell in love with being a student. I fell in love with teaching. That's why I'm in South America teaching English now,
Well,
because I fell in love with teaching.
it's funny, Mike. In my university days, I was an accounting student, and I'm not kidding. I had a professor who stood up in front of the room and he read the textbook to us. And if you have insomnia, get someone to read you an accounting textbook. They're not written to be exciting. But I actually changed universities because I looked at the textbook and I found out that the guy who wrote the textbook, I loved how he wrote it. I just hated how my professor read it. I moved schools to go study under the guy who wrote the textbook. And ironically, we used the exact same textbook, but he said, you can read the textbook at home. I'm going to tell you stories about accounting, and he made it real for us.
Very
And
cool.
personally, I'd rather study from somebody who tells the good story and gives it the context.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned accounting because I always joke about this. Now, it's either lessons for the fitness industry or lessons from the fitness industry. That's why it applies. I've got 2 speaking gigs this week. One is to business owners, is lessons from the fitness industry. The very next day, Saturday, is to the fitness group where it's lessons for the fitness industry. But I always joke that Fit Presenter is for fitness people. I was legitimately considering doing Fin Presenter for financial people. I majored in economics in college because I'm good with numbers and I love to tell stories. And economics is the study of numbers that tell stories. Numbers tell stories. So don't think because you're accounting or finance or economics that you can't make it interesting or exciting. I love numbers that tell stories.
And by the way, I'm going to second that and say nobody loves numbers that don't tell stories. Like I can't tell you, Mike, how many meetings I've been in where some accountant, God bless the industry, we need them,
Yeah.
but they pull out a spreadsheet and they nod knowingly, cross their arms and go, there. And people look at it. Literally a picture is worth 1,000 words, but I feel like a picture is worth 10,000 numbers. If you don't tell the story of the numbers, and little things I used to do, I'd put like a little stop sign as a red caution, or a yellow amber triangle for more caution, or green, hey, everything's good. You owe it to the person to tell the story that they need, not let them sit there and try to pull the story out of you.
Well, I have a story about that. When I was working in retail selling exercise equipment, there was the regional manager got demoted. And the reason for it is people kept quitting because of his sales meetings were so not only boring, but just insulting. So, I mean, I heard about this later on. It was just, I never actually met. It's a long story about how I was in Anchorage, Alaska, and this guy was in Seattle. So I didn't have to go directly to the sales meetings, which is nice. But he would say it was no Zoom back then. He said, so the numbers are here. Next quarter, I want the numbers to be here. He was Lumbergh from Office Space. He literally was Lumbergh from Office Space. Yeah.
Oh,
So if you could just go ahead and get those
yeah.
numbers up 20%, that would be great. And
I'm
it
not
drove
kidding, Mike.
people
I
nuts.
used Lumbergh as an example with my 11-year-old last night. So
That movie. I was so disappointed to find out the actor's not really like that, and the guy who plays Milton is actually a pretty rugged dude. I was pretty disappointed he wasn't really like that. But yeah, they're so stereotypical for an office, and yet we find it acceptable because the movie is funny. We find it acceptable for people to be like that.
yeah, I love the Bobs, by the way. So total tangent.
Yeah.
Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, what does FIT stand for? And
All
then
right.
we're going to talk about how people can connect with you.
Okay, well, I'll give you the I is easy. That's instruct with stories. That's the easy one. T is to transfer the lesson, which means you've got to have some kind of foundational phrase that people can repeat. If not, they're going to forget. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, it was really funny. He and Jeff, they were talking about Office Space from Lumbergh or something. I can see. See, you got the memo from Lumbergh. Yeah, next week is Hawaiian Shirt Day. So if you want, you can go ahead and anyway. So that's the T is transfer in a way that they can repeat what you tell them. That's the I and the T. The F is a little more convoluted. So allow me. Everybody has misconceptions about what you're talking about. If they didn't, it means they know nothing. You lecture me on astrophysics, I have no misconceptions because I don't know anything.
Yep.
But people are going to have misconceptions about accounting. They're going to have misconceptions about fitness. Why? Because they have background knowledge. Your knowledge is just like this glass of water. It has the hydration you need, but it also has impurities in it. But luckily for me, this water is filtered. And that is the F in the FIT system, to filter their misconceptions away from their background knowledge. Show them that even when they're wrong, they're still a little bit right. Show them that you respect the knowledge that they bring. They bring value to your presentation. Have you ever seen a speaker or a teacher say, forget everything you know about this, or everything you've been taught is wrong? Is there anything more insulting or disrespectful than that? I don't know what you know.
Yep.
How do I know? And for me to say, well, I'm right and you're wrong. I'm smart and you're stupid. However, you're smart enough to learn everything I'm going to tell you in the next 20, 30 minutes. You don't know that. What you're telling your audience is that you don't bring any value. I don't respect you, but still, I'm going to lecture you. So when you address their misconceptions by telling them, okay, there's a grain of truth in everything you believe, even if some, so it's fair to say something you've been taught is wrong.
Yeah.
That's fair. But everything? Now, in all fairness, it's possible that everything you've been taught about Christopher Columbus is wrong. In all fairness.
Yep.
Okay, if you believe that Columbus tried to prove the earth was round and that when he landed in the Bahamas, he thought he was in India. All right. If that's the case, forget everything you know about Christopher Columbus. Yeah. Everything else, they have some kind of background knowledge. So address whatever misconceptions you think they're going to have. And you do that by, well, this is a two-part process, address and confess. Confess, own up to a misconception that you've had about what you do. Show them that learning process. Show them that you're fallible as well. And how are they going to react to that? What? You're not perfect? Well, forget it. No, they're going to say, oh, wow, he's one of us. Great. And so you confess, and then you address what misconceptions people usually have by showing that grain of truth that exists, to show that even when you're wrong, you're still a little bit right. Now they're more receptive for you to be the teacher. That's when you start instructing with stories. And once they hook into that story, you give them a phrase to bottle it up that they can repeat to other people.
Well, I'm going to ask you a tangent question, then I want to go
Do it.
forward. But is there a faster way to lose an audience than to tell them they're stupid? Like, Not that I want
Yeah.
to know what it is, but it feels like that's one
If
of.
there is, I'm not interested, but I'll tell you something. Most people do it in a very condescending manner. And the fact is, a lot of very well-known speakers do it. Are you a fan of Gary Vee at all?
I in small doses. He's a
Yeah, I want his social media following. He's doing something right.
yeah,
So the guy has zero respect for his audience.
yeah.
Absolutely none. The guy is a slob. He gets up on stage, shorts, sandals, chewing gum. Guys, yeah, it's great to be here. Last week I gave a speech and it was great. They applauded because they love me so much. You probably don't know this because you don't travel as much as I do. But last week I was in Australia and you weren't, so screw you. That's how he talks to people, and they think he's the greatest. I
Yeah.
mean, Gary Vee is there to help dreamers keep on dreaming. But so people don't always know when they're being insulted.
Yep.
But if you're going to work with me, you're not going to insult your audience. Insult me as your coach. I'm used to it. You're gonna beat me up a little bit. And that's fine. It's going to go both ways. That's the fun part, to shake the real stories out of people. So yeah, even though insulting your audience directly might hurt their feelings, but a lot of the subtle condescension is even worse. And sometimes the audience doesn't know the speaker's putting them down, saying, you need to follow me because you're just not good enough to do it on your own.
It's
I would
my
say the
word.
easiest way to lose your audience is my favorite opening line in all of virtual presentations. Are you ready? My favorite opening line in a virtual presentation. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen now. Can
Mine
you
is
see it now?
yeah.
Is
Can
it
you
working? There you go. That's how you lose your audience quicker. Alt tab, check my Facebook.
yeah, my other favorite is can you hear me? And
Yeah. I always say, what?
all right. I also do I move my mouth, but I don't say anything because it really messes with them. Because that anyway. All right, Mike, I could talk to you all day because you are absolutely a hoot. How can somebody work with you, and what does working with you look like?
All righty. Well, you can find me online at fitpresenter.com. That's fit-presenter.com. I don't know if it's a dash or a hyphen, just press the thing once and you'll find me there. And also check me out on LinkedIn because I post 7 days a week and every week is a separate theme. Like this week I talked about is how public speaking has helped me raise up my reputation in the workplace when I wasn't getting the respect and recognition that I felt I deserved. Last week was my 5 favorite speeches ever given and a dissection there. Next week is some of my misconceptions that I've had about speaking, or and also misconceptions that other people typically have about speaking, and how you're not completely wrong if you believe that. So that's how to get in touch with me. Check me out on LinkedIn because I've got a very strong presence there, and check out my website. You'll love it, fitpresenter.com. What it looks like to work with me is real simple. We sit down for 6 sessions. We begin by getting a baseline of your speaking skills. I have the storytelling background here because I really like the way it looks. And that's probably the most important of the 12 competencies, but it's not exclusively storytelling. We look at 12 different competencies you need: audience focus, exact next step for your audience, selling without really selling. In other words, like what I'm doing now, let you know how to work with me without saying today. These are all baseline skills. Then we get to work on your storytelling. And we do that through first with your skeleton story, the who, what, when, where, and we make that story 3-dimensional by adding dialogue, audience involvement, and conflict. And we do what so many speakers are not willing to do. We elevate that conflict so that they feel it. They invest in the conflict and they say, Jeff, you are not leaving that stage until we resolve that conflict. And how you resolve the conflict in your stories is how the audience resolves the conflict in their business or in their lives. And that's how you build your business with storytelling. That's how you get your storytelling up to world class. Then we take all that material, we put it into modules so you can adapt it depending on how much time you have, what the venue is, who your audience is. This way you'll never give the same presentation twice, but it will always be the same universal message. And we perfect your delivery, but delivery comes after content. Work with me. Content is more important. And that's another conversation as to why that is, but we can do this all day. That's what it looks like to work with me. 6 weeks to go from concepts to a 45-minute curated keynote that you can repurpose for every presentation, written and spoken, that your business needs.
Well, and I'm going to shamelessly plug. I feel a lot of my authors, what they lack is the clarity and the story. So one of the things I'm recommending is people talk to Mike and work with Mike. Once
Yeah.
you a keynote nailed, come back to me and we'll turn that into a book, because that's another level of authority. Um,
Yes.
Honestly, if you don't know what your story is, I'm not going to pull it out of you, because that's just not my area of interest. So a lot of my people, I'm going to be sending them to Mike. So fair warning,
Awesome.
if we haven't chatted yet, Mike does do things outside of the fitness realm. But honestly, Mike, my rant is, if you're a local business and you don't have a workshop, what are you losing? What are you missing? So
Exactly. Yeah, your workplace is the place to present. And first 30-minute session is complimentary. So my time is yours. I want to help you get your message out.
I love it. Well, Mike, thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for telling me a story and sharing your
Yeah,
message. And it was a lot of fun.
awesome.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.